Okay, good evening, you crazy Cthulhu cultists. I worked all day on that one. Yeah, tonight we're gonna do one of our world famous, meaning watched by about 7 people, Gamebook streams. And on deck for tonight is the Gamebook you see before you, which is At the Mountains of Madness by Edward T. Riker. This is one of the game books in the series called Choose Cthulhu by Steve Jackson Games. They were originally actually not published by Steve Jackson Games. These are, I think they're mostly or all by some Spanish authors, and Steve Jackson Games published English translations of them for us U.S. people and other English speakers to enjoy. And yeah, I kind of wanted to do either one of my RPG solo streams like Tunnels and Trolls or a game book, and I wasn't sure what to pick. And then here on Long Island, suddenly it became a very dark and stormy night, and so my mind drifted in the direction of horror. And then I said, "Oh yeah, I've got these 6 Cthulhu game books to play still. Why don't we give that a go?" And these game books are not like the ones I typically play on this stream, in which there is a character sheet and dice rolling in combat, and you keep track of equipment and skills and stuff. No, this is kind of like going back to the basics of game books. And in my mind, the most basic kind of game book of all is what many of us played as kids, if you're about my age, that is, and that is the Choose Your Own Adventure series. So this is kind of closer to the Choose Your Own Adventure series. You pick your path. I heard there's a thing called pick a path, by the way. I don't know. I think English people tend to mention that. Maybe it's a British thing. Anyway, yeah, you don't keep track of sanity and hit points and stuff like that. It's just a story, and you make decisions in it. But being that this is a dark and stormy night here on Long Island, I thought I would tell a little story set here on Long Island that's in the style of Mr. H.P. Lovecraft. So I'm going to read that while the folks trickle in, if anybody. So here's my story I wrote. On a dark and stormy night, I don't think H.P. Lovecraft would actually say that, but just to get it started. On a dark and stormy night, the Long Island Sound raged with an ancient fury. The wind howled through the skeletal trees, bending them as if whispering secrets of the deep to the heavens. Lightning cracked the obsidian sky, illuminating the ghostly visage of a decrepit mansion perched precariously on the cliffs above the sea. It was the old Harrington estate, long abandoned and shunned by the local inhabitants, who whispered of its cursed past. I had come to this forsaken place in search of answers to my great-uncle's mysterious disappearance. His last letters, spoke of an unholy presence within the mansion's walls. And hold on one second, I need to put on my do not disturb. I forgot to do that, and I'm getting notifications about someone else streaming who I really don't care about. All right. Yeah, where were we? I had come to this forsaken place in search of answers to my great uncle's mysterious disappearance. His last letters spoke of an unholy presence within the mansion's walls, a presence that drove him to madness. Armed with a flickering lantern and an unsteady resolve, I pushed open the heavy oak doors, their groan echoing ominously through the desolate halls. Hey, Stu's here. How's it going, Stu? It's actually a guy I don't even follow, but who's famous. His first name is Joe. You can figure out the rest. Anyway, I'm reading a Long Island based story in the style of H.P. Lovecraft that I wrote myself. It's only going to take a minute. Okay, I'm lying. AI wrote it. I was going to make that the big funny reveal at the end, but I told AI to write a story in the style of H.P. Lovecraft, but set here on Long Island, inspired by the dark and stormy night we're experiencing. All right. But really, it's not using the setting of Long Island much at all, except saying that it takes place near the Long Island Sound. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit through the silly story, and he discovers a journal, basically, the protagonist. The journal spoke of strange dreams and an indescribable fear. It was Hempstead. No, my great uncle had become obsessed with an old leather bound tome he found in the mansion's basement. The Long Island Railroad Train Service Manual, a book filled with cryptic symbols and blasphemous rites. His notes became increasingly erratic, detailing a ritual to summon beings from beyond the stars. As I read, a sense of dread settled over me. The storm outside intensified, the thunder now a constant roar. I felt a presence in the room, an otherworldly chill that froze my blood. The lantern flickered violently, and in the corner of my eye I saw a figure. And he said, "Hey, how you doing?" A shape not of this world, shimmering and amorphous. I tried to flee, but my legs betrayed me. The figure drew closer, its form shifting and writhing, emitting a sound that was not quite a whisper and not quite a scream. It said, "Tickets, please." I felt its gaze, a gaze that penetrated my very soul, and in the very moment I understood the madness that had claimed my great uncle. Summoning the last of my strength, I hurled the journal into the fireplace. The flames roared to life, consuming the cursed pages. The figure let out an unearthly wail, retreating into the shadows as the storm outside reached its zenith. I stumbled from the mansion, the door slamming shut behind me, with a finality that spoke of a dark chapter now closed. The storm abated as I reached the safety of my car. The mansion loomed in the rearview mirror, a silent sentinel of a forgotten horror. I knew I would never return, and I prayed that the dark forces within would remain buried beneath the weight of time and neglect. But even now, in quiet, stormy nights, I can still hear the faint echoes of that unholy wail, and I shudder to think of what other secrets lie hidden in the dark corners of Long Island, waiting for the unwary to uncover them. That was generated by ChatGPT. I said, write a story in the style of H.P. Lovecraft about a dark and stormy night here on Long Island, which is what we were having in real life. But back to the actual book that's not written by AI. At least I hope it's not. I hope I didn't buy some garbage that's generated by AI. That would be truly disappointing. And I think I would be able to figure that out after a few pages. Yeah, At the Mountains of Madness, that is based on, this is a game book based on the Lovecraft novella of the same name. It is his longest story. He never wrote anything larger than this one single novella. Most of his stories are quite short. They were written usually for, to be published in magazines like, I don't know the names of all of them. I think one of them is called Weird Tales or something like that. And I think this one actually, At the Mountains of Madness, was like a serial. He would submit, submit it piecemeal to the publisher, and they printed him, issue after issue. All right. But yeah, it is quite rainy and stormy here on Long Island for real. And it is it's good because my lawn is very dry. And it's nice that I don't have to run the sprinklers today. I'm only allowed to run them every other day lately because there hasn't been a whole lot of rain. Only on odd numbered days. So I was supposed to actually do it today, but the rain allowed me to stop that. Anyway, no one cares about my lawn watering. Nobody joins this stream to hear me talk about my lawn. At least I hope I would hope you would not. That's kind of boring. But yeah, At the Mountains of Madness. Oh, am I already losing my voice after like not even getting to the first page? And this is translated from the Spanish. All of these Choose Cthulhu books, I think all of them, were written by Spanish authors. So this is translated from the Spanish by Carla Lopez Maderos and Edward T. Riker. Funny thing, Edward T. Riker doesn't sound like a very Spanish name, but I think I looked into this on my video. I don't remember what the answer was. Maybe he's in the Canary Islands or something like that. But yeah, there is a whole video I have where I was unboxing 6 of these books and just kind of flipping through them and all. So if you've seen that on my channel, then you have seen these books a little bit at least. And Stu says he must be related to William T. Riker. Yep. Riker jokes. William Riker. Oh, does he have the same initials? Is Commander Riker William T? Right, so like I said before, this is not a fancy game book like I usually play, in the sense of it being kind of like an RPG where you have a character sheet and and you roll for combat and you keep track of stats and things. No, this is just in the style basically of those old choose your own adventure books. Maybe they still make them, maybe they're not all old, where you just, follow the paragraph choices and it tells you what happens. So it's kind of simpler in a way. Um, so yeah, let's get into it. Let's start with this warning. How many times have you felt like screaming, "Don't do that, you fool," when reading a book or watching a movie? Well, this is your chance to be the fool. No, to be the one to make the decisions. You'll find many different actions to carry out within the pages of this book. As you read through the story, you'll choose what you want to do. Your decisions will determine whether you successfully complete your investigation, die a horrible death, always fun, or spend your last days in a mental institution. Now, I was going to say a moment ago when I was talking about Choose Your Own Adventure that those were kind of like for kiddies and maybe they weren't too, maybe this will be more horrifying and more, involve violent deaths and things like that. But I remembered playing this Choose Your Own Adventure book. I think it was called The Green Slime, and there was this green slime that would devour you in horrible ways and stuff. So maybe those were equally horrifying. And now Stu said, now your viewers will have the choice to think you are a fool. Exactly. They'll know how stupid I am. Hey, I'm gonna pick your guys' brains. I think there's only one person here so far, and that's you, Stu. But I'm gonna pick the brains of you guys so I can offload some of the blame or just point my finger to other people when I die. Only you are accountable for your destiny, and the viewers. It's up to you to save or condemn the world. It's very simple. Once you've read what's happening, follow the instructions to find out where your choices take you. Take into consideration that you can't go back. I sure can. I'm going to use what they call in the game book world the 5-finger bookmark. If I go here and I don't like it, I go, use the 5-finger bookmark. Anyway. Where were we? Can't go back. Read your options carefully and think before you choose. I like to act before I think. It tends to go better. In the Choose Cthulhu books, you'll not only enter the world crafted by H.P. Lovecraft, but you'll also have the chance to relive his dark creations. Do you think you can outsmart the children of the master himself? Oh, and when in doubt, Fnugli, Mugwa, Naf, Cthulhu, Ulye, Waga, Nagel, Fataken. Got that? Introduction. Stu says, you're a cheater, sir. Yes, I am. Well, we'll see how it goes. I might not have to cheat, or, maybe I'll just do it occasionally as needed. It's mostly about I don't want to start over from the beginning, typically, although we'll see how it goes. Maybe I'll even do that once in a while. I don't know. Start over. In this crazy world, you are what the rest would deem a boring subject. I am that in the real world as well. You are a middle-aged university professor. 5 feet 11 inches tall, and you weigh 175 pounds. The kind of person who doesn't receive a second glance standing in line at the supermarket. However, you are smart, the type that usually avoids taking risks. And the few strong emotions you've felt in your life are limited to getting a raise from time to time, and to heated arguments about geology on Saturday mornings. Geology has never awakened in anyone any greater passion than what you'd expect from the cold and unimpressive rocks you study. Generally, they do not interest the public beyond articles in some science magazines and mentions that other professors as boring as you might make during their long conferences. On January 11th, 1930, you received a confusing and rushed letter from Dr. I have to decide how this is pronounced and stick with it. Pabodi? I guess I'll go with that. A letter from Dr. Pabodi, an engineer with a profile as low as yours, in which he told you that he had raised enough funds to finance his drilling apparatus. Drill, baby, drill. It took several readings for you to comprehend his excitement. Now I'm going to sip on my tea like a fancy professor might. And now we can read this dude's letter. All right, shall we anchor it to the arms of my book stand? Let's do that. Dear friend, first, I apologize if, due to the emotion that overtakes me at the moment, fragments of my exposition are not entirely clear to you. But the unexpected sometimes happens. As you well know, the drilling apparatus I was working on was a unique project owing to its lightness and capacity to combine the ordinary artesian drill principle. I'm going to try to use my pointer here. Drill principle with the principle of the small circular rock drill, which will enable drilling as deep as 5,000 feet. And so the moment of truth has arrived. We've obtained the financing we hoped for, and we are working on its production as of right now. I know that, much like my own, your heart must be racing right now. Oh, yeah, it's racing all right. I beg you to take a seat, for this is not the only news. Miskatonic University has not only found a private investor for this fabulous mechanical progress, but will also send us on an expedition in the Antarctic continent to test it. We will try to secure deep-level specimens of rock and soil, perfectly preserved prehistoric rocks. The university wants you, my dear friend, to lead this expedition and bring to the American museums as many fossiliferous rocks revealing the primal life of that forgotten iced world as possible. For their inalterability throughout eons long darkness will uncover important knowledge about the past of our planet. Frank H. Podobi. Wasn't it Pabodi a second ago? Yeah, it's spelled different. See, here it's Podobi. Here it's Pabodi. Miskatonic University, Arkham, Massachusetts. This was not how you anticipated the start of your usual Saturday afternoon. No, I was kind of being, lazy today. If I had gotten this letter, it would be a much more exciting day. But there is no doubt in your life, there's no doubt that your life has radically changed. So now you must make some decision. And Stu says, Harvard University told us to F off. But luckily we found Miskatonic University. Yeah, close second to Harvard. And Stu also says an imposter, probably Cthulhu in the sky. I don't know about this Podobi versus Pabodi versus the Dopey versus... I kind of have I kind of like to make thorough fun of typos. And I feel like I don't know, anytime I play any game book, not any game book, some of them, I run into many typos for some of them, not all of them. Tunnels and Trolls books, I actually volunteered to help. I haven't talked about this before, to proofread a couple of them because they tend to have so many typos. So there was actually one I did where they weren't all proofreading. Some of it were like game mechanic stuff and whatnot. But I submitted 200 suggestions and corrections. There were just that many in the draft. Anyway, this is not Tunnels and Trolls. But let's check our choices down here. So all the choices are like in this. So it's formatted a little differently from the typical game books. Usually, they put the choices like within the main text of the paragraph or the page. In this case, they have a separate section with a line at the bottom. For what it's worth, it might not really mean a whole lot. I just thought that's interesting that they laid it out a little differently. Anyway, you could await more news about Podobi and Miskatonic University on page 57. Try and gather more information about who organizes the expedition on page 46. Try to find some data about the Antarctic. I don't even know about the Antarctic, and he's asking me to lead the the expedition. I mean, waiting around doesn't really sound good. Await more news about Podobi. So I'm either going to try to gather information about who organizes the. I'm supposed to organize it, aren't I? Or I'm leading it. What's the difference between leading and organizing? Hey, I think it's the same thing, right? Let's find out data about the Antarctic. 92. It could be that I'll just be like the point man who's physically there, but somebody else is planning it. I don't know. This is actually quite short compared to many game books because many game books try to squeeze in many paragraphs, or at least at least 2 or 3 or 4 on a page. It does not do that. It's just they say go to this page and they don't fill up the whole page typically. All right, so we're going to 92 to learn about the Antarctic. Antarctic, typo. All right, I'm gonna get if I find 2 typos within the first couple of pages, and it's Antarctica, not We usually say it like Antarctica, but that's a misspelling. Anyway, I should just get over myself. Stu says, "Is this a new book?" Yeah. Pretty new. Steve Jackson Games published these recently. And, like, they had a Kickstarter, and they came out about a year ago. They were translated from Spanish, as I already mentioned. So I don't know at what point the translation happened, but I guess this translator is the one to blame, probably. They spell it right in the next paragraph. Yeah, I don't know if that's better or worse. I mean, if you think it's spelled one way, at least be consistent. I don't know. I know I should just get over it. Just whatever. It is what it is. You know what it is? To me, it's an interruption because my mind catches that, and then it interrupts the smooth reading. It's not just me being pedantic. At least that's what I'm telling myself. All right, let's go. Antarctica was the last continent on Earth to be discovered and populated. This officially took place barely 300 years ago, although its existence was known since antiquity, for the Greeks had already named it Terra Australis Incognita. Antarctica is such a dangerous and hostile region that no human settlements, except for temporary research bases, have been established in the territory, okay? Therefore, should something happen to you, there would be no chance of getting help. Oh, that sounds lovely. There is no record of any species that could survive its deadly drops of temperature, which can reach as low as negative 94 degrees Fahrenheit, maybe even lower in the most remote regions, and only flocks of birds and seagulls, no, only flocks of birds and some big mammals like leopard seals coexist with different species of penguins, never getting away from the coast. What interests you the most is what many Antarctic researchers repeat. If one has an established plan, it is more sensible to try and accomplish it to the extent possible. An abrupt change of plans may result in death in a place where there is no way of restocking. No one will look for you where you shouldn't be. And Stu says there's a Cthulhu PC game called Prisoner of Ice. Yeah, yeah, I've heard of that. I think I might have watched someone play it a little bit way back. Was it the 90s? I think it came out, maybe early 2000s. Yeah, Antarctica. I guess that this one story is what I think this is the only H.P. Lovecraft story that takes place in Antarctica. But then sometimes similar stories also take place there. even heard a metal song that was inspired by Lovecraft that took place in Antarctica by a weird band called Baal Sagoth. Anyway, here's our choices all the way down here. You can resume your normal. You know what? That's probably the best choice if we want to survive. Resume your normal life on 41. I don't want to pick that because I think it's either going to be like, well, what are you playing this for? Game over, or it'll say you can't do that because the guy urgently pounds on your door and says you have to go, or some crap like that. I don't know. I kind of want to just see what it says out of curiosity, but I'm gonna play it straight for now. Or maybe you'd like to investigate a bit more about your mysterious benefactors on page 46. Let's do that. Maybe I could have like a meeting with them or something. Or are they too far away? I don't know. I'll have a Zoom call, even though it's 1930. You'd think it'd be best to learn about the expedition and that mysterious benefactor. One February morning, you are surprised with a juicy article from the Arkham Advertiser with the following information. Miskatonic expedition approved. Arkham, Massachusetts, February 3rd. Today it has been confirmed to our editorial department that the first geological expedition of Miskatonic University to the Antarctic will set out. This expedition will be altruistically funded by the Nathaniel Derby Pickman Foundation. It aims at securing interesting geological samples from the lowest layers of the Antarctic ground, reaching regions never trodden by human foot. 4 professors make up the expedition team. Pabodie, Lake of the biology department, Atwood of the physics department, also a meteorologist, and an expert on geology from Brown University. There are also 16 assistants, 7 graduate students from Miskatonic and 9 skilled mechanics. The team is expected to leave for the Antarctic layer this year in September to October. Phillips H.L. Continue reading on page 108, it says down there. I guess I'm at Brown University then, huh? I'm the geologist. I used to have a manager at work who went to Brown, and he was apparently known on campus as like a maker of chocolate or something, because he because he was really into making chocolate. I mean, he was like going for his PhD in I think computer science or something. Oh, it was something else. It was like laser engineering or something. He wound up being my software engineering boss, but I think he studied like laser engineering at Brown. Anyway, he was like the chocolate king of the campus or something weird like that. You have, if Andy's watching, I doubt he is. He would know who I'm talking about. Andy just likes when I play old video games. He doesn't really watch the other streams. You have obtained much more information from the article than you had expected. Adobe had left out some of the details, and now, fully aware that the expedition is months ahead of you, you take it easy. When you return to the library to research, I kind of feeling a little weird. Like, why am I not just corresponding with this guy directly? I'm like hearing it through a publication. I don't know. Fine, I'll just run with it. Excuse me. When you return to the library to research the Nathaniel Derby Pickman Foundation, you find nothing. Even your friends from the registry and other university professors try to help you, to no avail. And so it goes until one day, many weeks later, you receive a mysterious parcel. The parcel contains 4 photographs. It's a picture of me naked, a dossier with press clippings and some administrative documents inside a sepia-toned folder that is very, very tattered. Everything relates to a foundation by the name of Pickman Press, dedicated to the promotion and dissemination of forgotten literary texts. And also, they wrote the Pikmin. They developed the Pikmin series of games for Nintendo systems. If you want to resume your lessons and forget about the document, turn to 50. Why do they give me so many opportunities to like? Maybe this is a smart thing to do. It's the only way to win. The only way to win is to say I'm not going there. I'm not doing this. But the last time I was given an option like that, it said go to 40 something. I remember. So there's actually multiple. Let's avoid the expedition kind of paragraphs. It seems. Stu said he's holding on to those photos. Don't. Maybe it's for blackmail. Anyway, if on the other hand you think it's worth interrupting your routine for return home on page 105. I'm seeing a death paragraph. You're now prisoner of the cannibal chochos. Don't worry, your captivity will be short-lived. Okay, that's not what happened. I shouldn't peek at these other paragraphs. Sometimes you can't help it, though. Chochos. Don't show anybody those photos, please. Stu. At least just use them for your own private enjoyment. How do we always get in these ridiculous subjects? I can't blame only you. All right, you head home behind the wheel of your old Ford. Traffic seems particularly dense this morning, and the whole journey becomes monotonous and extremely long. I did start it, that's right. However, there is something that starts to worry you. During your drive, you keep coming across people who, for no apparent reason, stare at your car in a suspicious manner. They don't like Fords here. They're like Chevy people. Yes, Stu, I'm going to the LI Retro show. I think I'm going next Sunday. That's probably what I'm going to go. You know, Warren Davis will be there. Do you think he would sign my 6th scale Cubert that I have behind me? That would be pretty cool. Anyway, I don't want to sidetrack this too much, but yeah, there is a cool retro gaming expo here on Long Island that me and Mr. Stu here will be at. All right. Anyway, yeah, the Chevy people don't like me. No, they stare at your car in a suspicious manner. You could even swear that a sinister black car follows you at a safe distance. After you go around in circles a few times to confirm that it's all in your imagination, you make it to your apartment. Glancing at the quiet neighborhood, you secure the bolt and resolve to read your dossier. What you see on those creased and time-yellowed papers fills you with fear. Apparently, the mysterious Pickman Foundation is not what you'd expect from an academic foundation. Over its more than 100 years of history, it's operated under different names, financing all sorts of projects and expeditions aimed at discovering relics and heathen or forbidden texts, of course. From the tragic attempt at snatching the manuscripts of the Book of Zion from the hands of sectarians, which resulted in a massacre in Florida's marshes. Oh no. I don't want to go to Florida. Florida man lives there. To financing the disturbing paintings of Richard Pickman, the mad artist. Photographs that are included in this parcel are horrifying proofs of his work and show horrible old men with undefined faces. Yeah, so more pictures of me, in other words. Could this expedition be a cover to unveil some secret that should remain hidden? Yeah, probably. Carry on with your life. Oh, okay. It's probably not a give up page. I thought I was thinking other go back to your old life kind of thing. I think it's just saying, you know, wait around until expedition time or something. I don't know. I didn't think there'd be this much of, like, you know, the intro before the actual voyage or anything. With your nerves on end and the pressing feeling that you're being observed day and night, you let the days go by without leaving your home. Sounds like real life. Finally, on the second day of September 1930, the moment you were waiting for comes, a brief letter from Miskatonic University that calls you to leave immediately. The most remarkable thing is the list of your traveling companions and the equipment you'll need. You show up at Boston Bay with the intention of meeting the rest of the crew, and Professor Padobi, that's his name today, explains to you all the details of the trip. You'll leave in two ships, the Arkham, commanded by Captain J.B. Douglas, and the fast brig Miskatonic, commanded by Georg Thorfinsen. Thorfinsen? Let's go with Georg Thorfinsen, both veteran whalers in Antarctic waters. The rest of the crew doesn't take long to arrive at the bay. After greeting your university colleagues, you board the Arkham, and almost blinded by your excitement, you head south, leaving the inhabited world slowly behind you. Paragraph 78. I have a cool manga of the original story. At the Mouth of Madness by a Japanese manga dude. I don't know what you call it. Manga illustrator, manga author. His name is... Crap, I just had it. Something Tanabe. I think this is not important. Something OU is his first name, like TOU or something. Tanabe, something like that. Anyway, it's really good, though. He does a really good job on the artwork. On November 7th, you lose sight of the American continent. Bye, guys. The next day, you catch a glimpse of your distant destination, the cones of Mount Erebus and Mount Terror. Is that a real name in the Antarctic? I gotta look that up now. Mount Terror. That can't be right. It's real. It's a volcano in the Antarctic. It's called Mount Terror. Wow, that's pretty neat. I mean, you know, that's the perfect thing for a horror story set in the Antarctica. You have to see Mount Terror. Does it erupt, though? That's the question. Okay, back to the point. Mount Terror. In the afternoon, you leave behind the dangerous and narrow paths between the glaciers and step into McMurdo Bay. No, sorry, I'm being very childish. McMurdo Bay. The two volcanoes observe you from their height of 10,000 feet, filling your hearts with the feelings evoked by their names, a dark and abyssal fear. Down the barren coast, Thousands of grotesque, abnormally large penguins squawk and flap their flippers, while fat seals are visible on the water, either swimming or sprawling across large cakes of slowly drifting ice. The boats will remain anchored here, and their wireless outfits will be your link to civilization while you step into the mysterious frozen regions. You don't even want to think about what would occur if something had happened to them. You'd be doomed to a slow and lonely death. Well, maybe I could just eat the penguins and live off the land or something. What did I say? They were enormous penguins? Yeah, abnormally large penguins. You unload all your drilling apparatus, dogs, sledges, tents, provisions, gasoline tanks, experimental ice melting outfit, cameras, airplane parts, and most importantly, 3 small portable wireless outfits, besides those in the planes, capable of communicating with the Arkham from any part of the Antarctic continent. Commence on 61. Okay, you start to grow aware of the fact that the adventure has begun and the dangers you are facing. Although you are wrapped up warmly, gusts of steam escape your mouth with each breath, and even your eyelashes are freezing. With everything on the line, it's time to make really important decisions. I spelled it wrong again, Antarctica? Somehow I didn't notice it this time. It doesn't say Antarctica here. Maybe you're referring to the last paragraph. I don't know. It's everything on the line. It's time to make really important decisions. As the chief academic, the choice of what to do next lies with you. The answer is quite clear. You have to travel southwards to the closest glacier and establish the first drilling post. Sure, let's do it. We're going to drill, baby. We're going to find some old rocks deep in the ground, 5,000 feet, and get out of here. That's all we're going to do. That's all that's going to happen. It's going to go swimmingly. Stu says you read it wrong. He's sorry you called anybody a-holes. That's good. It's good to apologize if you incorrectly or baselessly call someone an a-hole. Anyway, the answer is quite clear. You have to travel southward to the closest glacier and establish the first drilling post. You think this is the ideal place to look for fossils. The question that is raised is whether you should set up an intermediate security camp in the frozen plateaus or travel directly, forcing the planes to fly to the base of the glacier itself. Let me think about that for a second, what they're saying. Let me process that. Set up an intermediate security camp in the frozen plateaus or travel direct. Security camp sounds good to me. I mean, we know stuff's going to go down. Anything that can improve our chances of safety at all can only be a good thing. unless we're really racing against time because we're low on supplies or something. But so far, I think so good. We just got here. Anyway, or travel directly, forcing the planes to fly to the base of the glacier itself. The weather is nice enough, warm even, to try and cross it, but on the other hand, an abrupt change of temperature could put an end to your trip before it has properly started. The biologist of the group, Professor Lake, approaches you and asks, "Well, what will we do now? The weather seems stable enough to try to advance as much as possible, but in the Antarctic, this can change in a matter of minutes." Yeah, you gotta play it safe, right? If you decide not to rely on the weather and establish an intermediate camp, go to 36, yeah. If, on the other hand, you think nothing bad will come from forcing a flight of more than 400 miles southward. It seems like they're trying to emphasize this might be a bad idea. You're trying to force a flight of more than 400 miles southward. You're going close to the South Pole. Closer, 400 miles. You sure you really want to do that? Anyway, I'm going to 36. Oh, I think I died. All right. That was, okay. I guess all right, I'm going to go to 72 instead. Excuse me. Commodities are scarce in such a dangerous region. Precautions must be taken. Using half of the fuel reserve, You fly 20 miles into deserted territory with the intention of landing somewhere on an icy clearing. In a couple of hours, 3 of the 4 planes have landed. Professor Lakes deviates somewhat from its course due to magnetic interference. You start to worry when the night falls without news from the professor, and the temperature plummets to lower than 20 degrees Fahrenheit. The strong winds of the odd magnetic anomaly detected by the professor, before getting lost, interfere with your wireless. Every hour narrows the chances of finding them alive, so you send 2 groups of 6 sledges to the last known coordinates of the plane, for risking a takeoff now would lead to their certain death. What happens in the following days defies all reason. It's less than a day-long trip to McMurdo Bay, and you have barely made it to the frontier of the frozen continent. Yet you find yourselves wholly isolated and disoriented. Weeks go by, the weather becomes more hostile, and there's no trace of your prior expeditions. Maybe one day, a group of adventurers will find your frozen corpse, hugging a silent transmitter. Da 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 da. Something was yeah, this is what I look like after my ride on the Long Island Railroad from the other story, actually. Okay, so that was the wrong choice. But I remember the other paragraph that was the option, so I'm going to take that path. And now we're officially cheating because we'll have to go back to the beginning and go through the same paragraphs again, right? Let's go to 72. I remember 72 because I'm a little bit of a numbers nerd. I wouldn't have remembered otherwise because I have a terrible short-term memory. But I remember thinking, oh, 72 is double of 36. That was my weird way of accidentally creating a mnemonic for myself. So that's how I know 72 is the other option. Without having to look back at the page. 72, despite the almost unanimous reports regarding the terrible winds and blizzards that blew over the plateau, you resolve to do without midway bases, risking the loss of your apparatus, but saving time considerably so as to take advantage of the Antarctic summer. On November 21st, during a 4-hour non-stop flight, just below you at frozen ground level, a completely inexplicable and brutal fog storm breaks out. Oh, good. I'm going to die this way, too. Why do this is just totally irrelevant, really, but sometimes when publishers will format text, I don't know what the right term for the person who does this is, they will like make really huge spaces to make it all fit, but it doesn't really seem like that should be necessary, you know what I mean? Anyway, you effortlessly fly over it, thankful to have taken a risk and left your provisions behind. Left my provisions behind? Okay. Huge summits wash you from the west, while the unfathomable silence echoes the sound of your engines. Stu says it's called full justification. I also think it's stupid. Okay. I mean, I could see sometimes it would, I don't know. I don't want to, dwell on that, but I just feel like they could just not do that and it would work out nicely anyway. I don't know. I guess I don't see what the alternative is. Anyway, let's continue. Right, huge summits watch you from the west while the unfathomable silence echoes the sound of your engines. The wind only bothers you moderately, and the radio direction finders help you cross what little opaque fog you find at those heights. Finally, you enter the eons dead southern confines. Far away to the east, you can see the summit of Mount Nansen, not like Hansen and Umbop, which rises to almost 9,000 feet. The south base, as you call this spot of the glacier, is set up without difficulties, and soon you start to work with the fast drills. Right, we're drilling, baby, drill. And down here it says continue with your investigation. I feel like it's kind of annoying that it's so low because what I do is I bend this stand to make it like go up and down. I don't know if you can see how flexible it is. So to make it look nice, I have to bend the stand. I want it to be like really showing that very well. Anyway, then I have to bend it back up again. So it's kind of slightly annoying. Whatever. They weren't exactly thinking of, you know, some weird guy streaming with his phone in a stand when they wrote this book. So that's definitely permissible. You said that's BS. Why couldn't they fill up the rest of that page? Maybe it's in Spanish. It does take up the whole bit. I mean, I couldn't imagine it consistently takes up the whole page like this. I wouldn't think so. No, I would say as a whole, Spanish is not more verbose. I mean, sometimes sure you might find a phrase that's more verbose than English, but you also find vice versa sometimes. I would think it about equals out roughly. Anyway, 107. You spend the first weeks looking for. Should I do some zooming in? It might look better. Yeah, it looks nicer. Yeah. You spend the first weeks looking for the best drilling spots while Padobi and two of the graduates, Gedney and Carol, pardon me, ascend the summit of Mount Nansen in search of fossils, not is search of fossils. I swear, I feel like any game book author should just give me their book for proofreading because I always find these things. So, you know, every game book author, find me and send me drafts and I will correct a million things. Actually, the worst thing though is when the paragraph links are bad. That's something that is so annoying when they get it wrong. Hopefully this has none of that at least. And there's actually software that can do that for you now. There's gamebook writing software. So you would just, and what you kind of do is, I don't know all of the software, but I played with one a little bit, and it kind of has like a graph. Think of it almost like index cards, but virtual. And each one, you know, you click on it, and then you can type the paragraph, and you just link them one to another. And then what you do is you press a button to generate the output text, and it'll fill in all the numbers, and it'll never get it wrong. So that's a good thing. I was playing one of the Tunnels and Trolls solos. It was like the latest version of a really old one, and latest edition of a really old one. And in this edition, at one point it said, you know, well, let me explain what it was about a little bit. It was about an arena where each, all you do is you roll dice and you figure out what your next opponent is, and you fight this person or this monster or enemy through a series of paragraphs and dice rolling and stuff like that. And there was one point in which I found like the most basic enemy, most average basic enemy. It was a human warrior. And then it says, now go to paragraph 10F to see what happens with this human warrior. And 10F didn't even exist. And then what I did was I looked through every paragraph in the whole book to see what could be the next step with the human warrior. And there was none. It wasn't even just a bad pointer. They just forgot or they accidentally deleted the whole paragraph. You can't do that. That's like the worst. You got to have some quality control. If anybody had played it, I'm convinced nobody play tested this final version because this was the most common average enemy you could fight. It was like you roll, I think, 3 dice to see what you fight. And 10 is like right in the middle of that range. It was human warrior, and it's broken. Like, how do you publish that? I don't get it. It means literally nobody play tested the final version. Anyway, I will stop complaining about random things. And you know what really bothers me? How do you get? No, I'm not gonna go. Let's play the game. How about that? The experiment. Where were we? Yeah, I got. You know, that's the thing about about these typos, is it distracts me, and I start complaining about the typos, and I go on tangents. That's the worst part about them. The experimental drillings reveal the existence of solid ground, just 12 feet down through ice, and Padobi's drilling apparatus reaches places where no previous explorer had ever thought of securing mineral specimens. The rocks obtained are so rare and different from what was known to date about the Antarctic that it makes you think that you're standing on a plateau that constituted another independent and smaller continent, something totally impossible. But without a doubt, Without a doubt, excuse me. I wish I was a better reader too. I'm always like, hey, how do like, okay, I'm gonna go on another rant because Stu says those are better than the book. How do like people who speak on the radio or TV for long periods not just like burp randomly or clear their throat and stuff? Like occasionally you hear them misspeak. I misspeak every 10th word, but I guess they just practice a lot. They must learn like ways to suppress their belches and stuff. Or how did I mute? It was my mic volume went all the way down somehow. It's not like the mute toggle was hit. Not sure how that happened. Huh, weird. Must have been one of these supernatural thingies in Antarctica. Anyway, let's go. But without a doubt, the greatest surprise comes the day you find a curious triangular striated marking about a foot in diameter, which Lake, the biologist of the expedition, pieced together from three fragments of slate brought up from a deep blasted aperture in a cavern. I think we should examine this fossil more thoroughly, Professor Lake says excitedly. This might be the most important discovery in the history of humanity. Whoa, that's pretty, it's kind of saying a lot. The rock is undoubtedly ancient, possibly more than 60 million years old, but it's still just a fossil, and you say as much to the biologist. I don't think you understand. If I'm not mistaken, these striated markings have organic origin. Organic, you ask, incredulous? You mean tubular fossils like seaweed? I'm afraid there is something even more incomprehensible. We need to change the original course of our expedition and head west over the mountains to find new samples. Let's see what we're going to do down here. Yes, they're totally tubulars too. If you wish to accede to Professor Lake's desires, you can send an expedition to the Queen Alexandra Range. They're going to die then. On page 55. If, on the other hand, you stick to the original plan, overfly the South Pole. I think I'm going to have to explore what he found. I think that's the thing to do. We want to find whatever horrible creature made this. Or whatever. Let's go to 55. The biologist is curious, so we're going to find some new biology. And I see our second viewer gave up on viewing after I talked about belching too much. Actually, I don't know what parts were muted or not. I was like saying, how do people, who are actors or newscasters never, cough or burp usually? There were 3 viewers at one point. Nice. Just as you suspected, Lake is completely obsessed with the finding, and it soon becomes clear that contradicting him will have no results. With no time to spare, as soon as he receives your authorization, he breaks into a run toward the radio to inform McNerdo Station of your alleged finding. What he replies worries you to a great extent. According to him, it's the fossilized print of some bulky, unknown, and radically unclassifiable organism of considerably advanced evolution for the sort of rock where it was found. Sorry, my throat is bothering me a little bit. Might have to talk a little more softly. Okay, I just noticed the mute happened again. I don't know what. It's not even toggling mute. It's my microphone volume in OBS is going all the way down. I must be accidentally hitting something, but I have no idea what. So I'm going to read back to here again, I guess. I don't know. According to him, it's a fossilized print of some bulky, unknown, and radically unclassifiable organism of considerably advanced evolution for the sort of rock where it was found. That's something you can verify, for it is a Cambrian or Precambrian rock, and according to history, nothing superior to a trilobite would have, or is it trilobite or trilobite? I think trilobite would have existed so far back in time. Lake suggests taking the dogs along with forgot we had dogs. Dr. Padobi to operate the drill, and a pilot and 4 students to assist in the search in one of the planes. You and the rest of the team will stick to the original plan. Without a doubt, this is a short crew, but with the camp still unfinished, it's all you can afford. Sure. All right, biologist, don't let us down. Don't get us killed, please. The 2 expeditions split on page 42. Okay, so a pilot and 4 students assist in the search in one of the planes. And I'm just kind of reiterating to myself. The dogs with Mr. Padobi to operate the drill. Okay, fine. 42. Is the, life, universe, and everything paragraph. Just as you feared, Lake's haste turns out to be reckless. Although you all head south, Lake's plane soon opts for a route that'll bring him closer to the West Mountain Range. The reports are frequent, and he warns you of a strong wind and the menacing fog banks that rise from the distant mountains and move toward you. The students look worried, for the dogs have started to behave in a strange manner, and the aircraft are not answering in a reliable way. You press Lake to turn around, but that only enrages him. Don't you understand? This is the most important blah, 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 blah. Yeah, we're going to die, Lake. As for you, the trip turns out to be quite comfortable. Okay. Owing in part to Lake's warnings, which you decide to heed in order to avoid accidents and have a safe flight. Okay. Continue your flight on page 36. Are you kidding me? Took me back to here where I died. This is where I died before. Same fucking... All right, then. What was my last paragraph of that? We're going to backtrack. Professor Lake is a jerk. I thought that was like the right way to go. I'm rewinding. Let's see. Hang on a second. 42 took us to 36, which is the death paragraph. So before 42, it was what? Where was the last choice we had, basically? I was at 55. Okay, 55 did not have a choice, so it's basically this chain of paragraphs that leads to death, and you can't do anything in the interim. Like in between those. So 55. Where were we at before 55? Basically. Boo, 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 boo. I'm rewinding and rewinding. Okay, I got it. 107 was the last option. Throw Lake in the lake. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, I thought that was what's supposed to like move the story forward, but I guess not. All right, so sorry for the poor camera work for the moment, but let's see. I will not accede to Professor Lake's desires because 55 leads to 42 or whatever, which leads to this, to that, to death. So I guess we're going to stick to the original plan and overfly the South Pole. 104. Tactfully, in order to avoid confrontation, you tell Lake that this fragment might be anything, and that splitting up the group and the provisions might be fatal. Lake doesn't agree and complains angrily while he circles the tent that's been reinforced by blocks of hard snow. And I said, look, I already went down that path and we died, so I rewound time to get back to here, and you're mad at me? No, you don't understand. We just found a fossil, or He complains angrily while he circles the tent, and that's been enforced by blocks of hard snow. You don't understand. We just found a fossil that can change the history of humanity. It is not the time to be intimidated. He seems very anxious and finishes his sentences with a scream. Maybe we should ask someone at Arkham University for help. Someone who's qualified to make decisions regarding really important findings. You are somewhat taken aback by the biologist's words, but you decide to stick to your original plan. You order that the camp be taken down early next morning. Down here we see you'll leave in search of the South Pole opposite Lake's requested direction. Yeah, sorry, bro. We gotta go find horrible things. Not dying in the snow though. It's better to die by horrible creatures than in the snow. Getting lost with the whatever it was, magnetic interference. All right, let's set up with our arms again. Our lovely book arms. Stu says, tell him you work for a minifucker. University, not Arkham Asylum. Bear with me a second. I'm bending my bendy stand to give me more comfortable room here. All right. Despite Lake's angry complaints, this is paragraph 3, you convince the group to stick as closely as possible to the original plan, at least until the goals of the expedition are met and the fossils and geological specimens can be secured, which was what Paboti's drilling apparatus was built for. Your prudence proves providential, and after a bumpy journey, the 4 apparatuses land safely on the icy belt that subdivides the continent. The new camp meets your expectations perfectly well, except for the constant complaints from Lake, who assures you that you are missing out on something great and insists to the base camp to let him split up the expedition. Finally, on January 11th, with the express approval, we've been here for a while, right? It said November before. Or November was when we were still at home, I think. Anyway. Finally, on January 11th, with the express approval of Miskatonic University, Lake is allowed to explore the West Mountain Range while you continue drilling as closely as possible to the South Pole. Taking the lead in this new expedition, Professor Lake decides to take the planes and a team of 11 men with him. Only Professor Padobi and 5 other students remain with you in camp. In theory, it should be enough to continue the investigation until March, when your return as well as the start of the summer is expected. Okay. Continue your investigations on page 20. Yep, Miskatonic is its silly name. I'll have a Miskatonic, a gin and Miskatonic. I don't know. Lake's expedition sends you periodic wireless reports so you can broadcast them to Arkham, and from there to the outside world. The first messages are a warning about the dangers of the trip, and they tell you how soon they'll need you to provide them with geological knowledge. However, the exact moment that makes you wish you'd gone with them comes 6 hours later, but I die if I go with them. 10:05, night. Does that mean 10:05 p.m. or something? It looks weird. After a terrible snowstorm, we've seen a mountain range. May equal Himalayas, higher than any hitherto seen. It extends from left to right as far as the eye can see. Smoky cones and black peaks. Strong winds hinder approach. I'm flying over the mountain range with Carol. I don't dare cross the highest peaks in this weather. The summits are gigantic and really strange, seemingly made of Precambrian slate. Odd formations are of impressive geometrical forms on the slopes. Carol believes they are carved stones, but that's impossible. We have been able to see an abundance of surprisingly regular caverns. Yep, that's aliens. Half an hour later, they inform you of their return to camp to rest. Periodic communications were set for every 12 hours unless something extraordinary should happen. Without delay, you also go to sleep on 23. 23 is the page that says you go to sleep. You have a nice rest. And you dream about pie. This pie is delicious. Okay, here's the thing. Whoa. It's a lot of choices, but I'm not actually on that page. I thought that must be the continuation from the previous. I'm on 23 here. In the morning, in the evening, and in the following days, the reports come one after the other, and you are sure that you erred by staying in camp. No, I'm not sure of that. Attention! Many striated tracks, like the ones found in the archaic slate, show that it originated more than 6,000 million years ago. So 6 billion years? Okay, whatever. We'll go with that. That's a lot of billions. I'm like, can they actually tell that? Highlight the importance of this discovery in the press. This is to biology what Einstein was to physics. It seems to point that, as I suspected, the Earth has witnessed one or many cycles of organic life prior to the one we know. It evolved when the planet was young and uninhabitable for any protoplasmic structure or form of life. This leads to the question of when, where, and how that development occurred. Just an hour later, you receive the following statement. Found an odd piece of rock. It looks like a 5-pointed starfish with broken edges. It doesn't seem natural. There are small dotted groups of inscriptions. When we have light, Mills and I will enter into the underground world. With this last transmission, madness breaks loose. Both Padobi and Miskatonic University, typo, University, request more and more details, begging you to meet with Lake as soon as possible to double-check the results of that thing's age. However, you're not certain leaving the base hastily would be wise. Stu says, how come if he goes himself, he doesn't die right away like you did? You must really suck. I guess so. I guess it's kind of like, this is kind of the problem with any of these game books, is they can't let the paths branch off too much, usually the logical story paths. They kind of have to say, a lot of times they have to kind of reel you in or just kill you, you know. Crap. Why? Okay, I think I'm hitting key with my elbow. Let me get this keyboard out of the way. Right now, I'm kind of a little cluttered here. Maybe if I just move this keyboard, I won't do that again. There, we should be good now. unless it's happening magically, or maybe this alien is doing it, then we should be good now. Sorry about that. So we're on 98. Okay. You know, if I rush over there, I'm gonna die. Or maybe he'll, like, transmit something to me, and he'll tell about some creatures that are killing him, and I'll get to hear him like dying in real time. I'll be like, don't come here! They're horrible! They're killing us! Okay, but the true outbreak of madness comes with one of the last messages received. One of the last. 10:15 p.m. Orendorff and Watkins have discovered a monstrous barrel-shaped fossil of wholly unknown nature. Probably vegetable, unless overgrown specimen of unknown marine radiata. Tissue must be flexible, like a barrel with 5 bulging ridges in place of staves. From its back, combs or wings spread out like fans. God forgive us, but this being reminds one of certain monsters of primal myth in Necronomicon, Elder Things. Oh yeah, I know that book. We all read that, apparently. Hearing this news, an intense shiver runs down your spine. The wireless operator, McTighe, doesn't understand your sudden paleness and stays on guard beside the wireless. 11:30 p.m. Matter of transcendent importance. Mills, Boudreau, and Fowler discovered 13 underground creatures. Of organic specimens, 8 are in perfect condition and have decided to bring them to base. You don't do that. The issue is the dogs refuse to get close. When the dogs are like that, you gotta listen to the dogs. They know better. They have that spidey sense or doggy sense, I guess. Issue is the dogs refuse to get close. We'll have to drag them ourselves. Already seen a complete specimen. It's 8 feet tall, 4 tough, muscular arms, 16 feet long, ending in membranous triangle as means of support, which have made prints in rocks from 1,000 to 60 million years old. Okay. Now I'm thinking I do have to leave at some point, but I don't know when. If you believe this report is important enough to make you leave already, go to 52. If you decide to wait a bit longer before leaving to gather more. Okay, so now, yeah, the way they're phrasing the choices now, it seems like my departure is inevitable, but it's a matter of do I want to wait for more info first. Maybe I'll just go. I'll always just do the 5-finger bookmark if I chose the magical wrong path. All right, let's do it. 5-finger bookmark, 52. Well, I'll just remember 98 is where I was at. I probably won't remember it. Okay, you give notice to the pilot of the 5th plane, reserved for emergencies, to come pick you up from McNerdo with reinforcements, and you start loading the equipment. Lake's support team consisted of you and 9 other men, 7 dogs, and a sledge. You carry weapons, provisions, fuel, and replacement parts for emergencies. Pabodi will be able to operate his drilling apparatus, and you can put an end to the mystery of the Lake's impossible findings. The plane glides to page 85, and then to instant death. Let me see your weird creatures, dude. The snow aggressively hits the windows. I don't like that. Sherman, the pilot, can barely see. Oh, I lost connection for a second there. Sorry about that. Sherman, the pilot, can barely see a few inches ahead of the nose of the large airplane, which is shaken by the wind. You are all frightened. Just as it seems you are lost, something appears in the fog. These are the impressive jet-black summits of the unknown mountains that rise above the clouds as if oblivious to the strength of the storm. Don't hit the mountains. They are still far away, but they seem to dominate the fog as if they could repel it. Suddenly, the shape of these mountains catches your eye. As a geologist, you've never seen anything like it. Stories from forbidden books and their descriptions of old and abhorrent places come to mind, like the Plateau of Leng, mentioned in the what is that word? Narcotic manuscripts, and the infamous Necronomicon. Sherman asks you what to do next. You can try landing and search for the camp on foot, or approach the mountains and fly over their summits. That's a good question. Wait, are we suspecting I'm near the camp or what? Or we don't even know that. Like, do we suspect we're in the rough area at least? That would be good if it told us that. I guess I'll land and search on foot. It's not saying that we think they're beyond the mountains, right? I don't know. I think it's just that it's very dangerous if we continue flying right now. That might be the point. All right, let's go to 6. Welcome to Mr. Non-Stew person who is watching, by the way. If you would like to say hi in the chat. Hi to you. 6, still startled after the huge electric storm that surrounds the Mountains of Madness. Your group manages to land about 300 feet from Lake's base camp. As soon as you disembark the plane, you comprehend the terrible sufferings undergone by the men of the expedition. Lake has established his base in the middle of a barely sheltered plateau, and the wind coming from the slopes meets it with extreme violence. Luckily, the weather has calmed down now. but it's easy to imagine what the explorers would have gone through in the midst of a storm. The dogs won't leave the plane as if something terrifies them. I'm saying you should just follow whatever the dogs want to do, and don't do what the dogs don't want to do. The dogs won't leave the plane as if something terrifies them. So before unloading the equipment and taking control of the facilities, you resolve to conduct a thorough investigation about what's happened in Lake's camp. What you see fills you with horror. The prefabricated shelters are half destroyed. There are machines and sledges in ruins everywhere. On page 22, you'll find a map with every place you can visit and a list of names. Is that map I was looking at before on the left page that had like a lot of choices at the bottom? Once you finish your investigations, you'll be able to resume your search. You can investigate the camp following the instructions on page 22. You can return to the map and explore other places whenever you want. Interesting. So 22 is our map page, and we can just basically go there whenever we want. So if I'm about to die by a big monster, I can just jump to the map. I'm assuming not in the midst of something like that exactly. All right, here's our map. Let's see if I can get a good zoom in on it. So this is the camp. Okay, here's the labels down here. First, it's hard to read them. Even with the naked eye, it's kind of not too clear. It's like they tried to make a realistic looking type. What's the word? Typesetting. It looks like it's been typewritten, but it's kind of difficult to read. Percy Lake. These are all the people. Okay, Gregory, Moulton, Howard, Gedney, Thomas Flower, Augustus Carroll, Ashton Wills, Peter Orendorff, Robert Watkins, Philippe Boudreau, Nigel Brennan, Donald Atwood, Theodore Daniels. Okay, that doesn't really mean much, does it? Up here it says 1 dog corrals, 2 camp, 3 common grave, 4 hangar. Okay. So 1 dog corrals, 2 camp, 3 common grave. So have people been dying in the expedition? 4 hangar. So I can investigate the dog corrals at 88. Investigate the camp 94. Common grave 53. Hangar 32. If you've already resolved the mystery, 35. Oh. If the odd metal structure catches your attention, oh, now it does. If the odd metal structure catches your attention, go to 106. All right, let's go down the list. Start with the dog corrals at 88. I'm not sure how much I have to remember this page or hold it. Okay, it tells you to go back to 22 at the bottom. I mean, I guess I might as well stick a bookmark or something in there. The pencil could do it, I guess. All right, 88. It is completely impossible to take your dogs to the spot where Lake's expedition was. When you arrive at the dog corrals, you will know why. The animals had been locked in a rectangular building made with blocks of ice and strengthened with the structure of a camping tent, but it is now wrecked. Pardon me. You get in through an enormous hole in the wall that seems to have been made from the inside. Everything is covered in blood, and the remains of the poor dogs. Something has torn them apart in a terrible way, and some have their necks twisted in a horrifying manner. More frightening is the fact that among them, you find the corpse of a man. This must be their attendant, but he is in such a terrible state that you cannot identify him now. In the end, you decide to keep your dogs inside the plane for your own safety. Jesus. Get back to 22. Okay, going down the list, we're going to check out the camp at 94. Lake's main camp is in sound condition, apparently. As soon as you near it, you cry Lake's name as well as his pilot's, but no one comes out to welcome you. There are 4 tents in a camp, forming a semicircle, along with a smaller one in the middle and another one another far from the rest. That's where they tried to exile a sick person who was infected with the thing from John Carpenter's Thing, you know. Anyway, out of the 4 big ones, they're reinforced by heavy walls of ice. 2 are the enormous tents where the men sleep during their rest hours. The 3rd one is where the findings of the expedition and the heavy machinery are kept. And the last one serves as the dining hall and leisure area. And the 5th one, which is much smaller and more sheltered, houses the wireless and vital equipment, while the most remote tent serves as a makeshift latrine. Relieving yourself in the cold could be deadly. Okay. The book really makes no sense. This book really makes no sense as to, okay. Well, something attacked their camp is all right. Examine the camp beds. There's more choices here, obviously. Not like the last one. So we can examine the camp beds at 43. Examine the tent with the wireless outfits on 25. Examine the leisure area at 17. If, on the other hand, you'd rather check the retreat, always got to check the latrines, go to 28. If you want to visit the storage area, go to 26. I'm just going to go down the list again. Although Stu is saying I would personally go use the latrine while I have the check. You know, let's do it. Let's try to use the latrine. You might not have a better opportunity. It's dangerous to pee in below freezing weather, in harsh weather. I could get that. You don't want your pee stream to freeze midstream, right? It sounds very dangerous. It would like plug you up probably, maybe. Also, you would quickly get frostbite in sensitive areas possibly. You wouldn't want to, you know, go bare in like negative 20 degrees or whatever. The existence of a tent exclusively for the latrines is essential to the Antarctic. Exposing, yeah, so what I'm getting at next, exposing any part of your body to these, what's that word, gelid? I don't know that word. Let's look it up real quick. I assume it means very cold. Gelid is how it's pronounced. That means extremely cold. Gelid. All right. Now we learned something today. Exposing any part of your body to the gelid temperatures will result in immediate freezing, with resulting gangrene and amputations. Yeah, you wouldn't want to have to amputate that just because you didn't pee intelligently. The space for the latrines is small and, as you expected, empty. However, the door is open and the hole used to relieve oneself is exposed to the cold from the outside. There's something that catches your attention, a trail of salt that seems to trace a circle around the putrid hole. Trail of salt? So clearly there was a slug-like monster and someone tried to kill it with salt. Which hole are they talking about? Okay, a mystery is afoot here. If you think it would be better to retrace your steps and continue exploring the base camp, turn to 94. Continue around other areas around the map on 22. Let's look. We're here. We're going to keep looking. Stu says he knows what hole he uses to relieve himself. If you want to take a look at the black well, let's do it. Someone will have to put their hand in it. You do it, other guy. Don't we have any lanterns or anything? All right, we're going to do that. 102. Draw straws to see who puts their hand in this weird dark hole with salt around it. Wait, what? Let me read that again. What? Was there anything weird about it besides the salt around it? It was just where you poop, right? Or go in general. It's exposed to the cold from the outside. Well, I guess you would normally close it or something. Trail of salt seems to trace a circle around the putrid hole. Yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, actually, but let's see. I already made the decision. None of your companions seem inclined to stick their hand in the hole of the latrines. Yeah, you can't blame them, I guess. And they advise you against doing it. However, there is something odd about those trails of salt. You enter the cubicle and the odor of rotten fish almost makes you vomit. You bring your face closer to the white trail that surrounds the hole and realize it's covered in small marks, as if someone had pressed striated triangles ending in small dots all over the surface. They just say they found it. They found like a rock that was exactly described as that, striated triangles ending in small dots or something. Lake's fossils of the fossils he found. Okay, not the rock. Lake's fossils, you'd think it was, but who would stamp the marks as if they were tracks, unless these were really tracks? But that would mean something appalling. Discarding the idea, back to sticking our hand in the poop hole. That's what you got to do. Discarding the idea, you resolve to stick your hand, protected by thick gloves, into the hole. You fumble in the sticky, semi-frozen puddle until something hard seems to move when you touch it. The living poop beast from the Antarctic. Holding whatever it is you found, you pull on it until you remove it from the excrement. A scream escapes from your mouth. Horrified, you fling poor Professor Lake's head away from you. Something pulled him into the latrine. Whatever monster had that fossil was like, you get in here. Or they put just his head in there, maybe. Maybe they just kind of like scattered his remains everywhere. I don't know. There would be more of it visible, right? There would be blood or something. They just, maybe that's the head storage place for these aliens. As Stu says, seriously, that's what he gets for being so rude to you. Yeah, I guess that's good punishment. Your head is severed and put in a latrine hole. You can return. Wait, didn't it say it moves though? I guess it seemed to move when it touched it because it was like, yeah, I get it. Doesn't mean literally moved. You can return panting to the main camp at 22, or if you are brave enough, resume the investigation. Yeah, let's do that. Resume the investigation in camp on 94. If you think these events are too dreadful to face on your own and you contact McMurdo Sound, go to 80. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'm not going to do it. 94. Am I dead yet? No. This is the same paragraph as before. Okay, so we're just down here again. So we looked at the latrine. Let's go to the top part and work our way down, except the latrines, which we already did, obviously. 43, to examine the camp beds. The two tents where Lake's team slept are silent and completely dark. It is deadly cold inside, and you are certain that something terrible has happened to the expedition. No kidding, I found a severed head of one of them. That's kind of the thing when these are kind of independent paragraphs, like they don't know which ones you've already been to or not. Some of the text can be, a little silly. With your electric torch, you see that the tent heaters have gone missing. Someone's been here, shouts McTighe, your pilot, pointing at one of the beds. At the same time, you hear Padobie shriek from the next door tent. What you find is blood curdling. You all abandon the area in horror. From the other camp beds, as if asleep, lie the frozen and bruised corpses of the students. You manage to identify Moulton, Mills, and Orendorff, while Padobie tells you that in the other tent are the remains of Theodore Daniels and someone he thinks might be Brennan, but who is too crushed to say for sure. Okay. And my choice is keep exploring the camp or going back to the map. I'm going to keep exploring the camp until I've done everything. Or something kills me. Okay, our choices. We will go to examine the tent with the wireless outfits. 25. The tent that stores the wireless outfits is in a sound state, but a curious odor like rotten fish impregnates everything. A quick glimpse at the wireless is enough to see that it's been roughly handled. And although it might be easily repaired, it looks like someone or something had been shaking it and hitting it. The microphone is missing, although the lead still hangs from one of its sides. When the wireless operator McTag tries sitting on the chair to examine it, he turns toward you. He's got goosebumps. You approach him carefully, and what you see fills you with terror. Stuffed under the table is the crushed corpse of Atwood, its fingers still clenching the microphone. All right, let's keep exploring. Gonna find people murdered in every possible way, basically. That seems to be the common theme here in the camp. Everyone's dead, they're mutilated. The leisure area. Someone was having some fun in the leisure area, playing chess or something, perhaps, and his brain exploded. The leisure area is located under a tent almost as big as the ones with the camp beds. Lake has set up a wooden table around which there are 4 chairs. The room seems to be empty, but someone served a dinner for 2 that is now freezing, with no one to finish it. The tent heater has gone missing, and there are drag marks from the place where it once was to the machinery area. There's a piece of paper nailed to a wall. It's a list of the assigned tasks. Sorry, I'm kind of fidgeting a little bit. January 2027. Atwood wireless reports 10 o'clock. I guess 10. How do you say it? 1600 or something? 2230. T. Daniels and Brennan, dog corrals every other day. Fowler outpost. Boudreaux, Gedney, and Lake study of samples. Carolyn Watkins, equipment in custody. This doesn't seem to clear out much for you, and you resume your investigation. And once again, we have the same choices. All right, what haven't we done in the camp yet? We have not checked the storage area at 26. That's the last option in the camp. The storage area has been partially dismantled, and some parts of the structure of the tent have been used to either reinforce or enlarge the constructions. There's little to see here except for the large number of missing pieces of Padobi's second apparatus, particularly the motor and the bits. You also notice some, sorry, once again I'm fidgety and itchy. You also notice some tracks left by 3 sledges that lead from the tent to the mountain range of madness. However, you don't see the dog tracks, which unsettles you. Okay. So something dragged them away. All right, so that's the end of the camp choices. So I guess we're going to go back to the map at 22. We did the dog corrals. We did the camp. Let's check the common grave at 53. Okay, I'm going to put this in the stand again. This is where Lake and his men hid the bodies of the creatures recovered from the ice. Oh. I was wondering why they had a mass grave. Like, were they dying in a a more controlled manner, so to speak? Like, so that they could bury people? But no, they put the specimens there. A total of 6 specimens in perfectly sound condition that they managed to drag without the aid of the dogs, and 2 others that were too damaged. Those would be used for the preliminary autopsies. Seemingly, Lake had commanded that the creatures be buried in ice, as far as possible from the dog corrals, and covered with a heavy waterproof tarpaulin. Aided by 2 men from your team, you undo the tarpaulin, which is partially buried under the snow and ice. There are 5 pits before your feet, forming a pentagram or a star, but they are empty. Someone has poured fuel over the corpses and reduced the bodies to ashes. Interesting. Okay. Clearly these events and the isolation itself has disturbed Lake's group. Otherwise, there is no explanation for this odd imagery. Looking for the 6th pit, Miss McTighe finds something that fills you with horror. In a shallow tomb lie the naked, frozen bodies of Watkins and Carroll. Both men were buried alive, for through the transparent ice, you can clearly see how they attempted to scratch their way to the surface before passing. Back to the map. All right. Next choice, visit the hangar. 32. The hangar where the 4 planes of the expedition are housed is a vast tent reinforced with prefabricated materials. Stu said, can you go home? I'll go. I mean, at this point, it would be a reasonable option. I mean, something is wrecking everybody, killing everybody, putting some of them under ice, apparently. Severing heads, crushing. There's traces of alien, tracks or whatever. Yeah, just time to go. Yeah, take some photos. Exactly. You can see evidence. At least you would not be personally held liable. Hopefully. Anyway, let's go. As soon as you step inside, you smell the strong odor of gas. After a quick examination, you realize that someone or something has been manipulating the plane's engines. Many barrels of fuel are missing. Yeah, because they burnt the bodies with the fuel, and others have been spilt over the planes, maybe seeking their destruction. The planes too. More disturbing is that in the cabin of one of the planes, you find the lifeless body of a pilot, Boudreaux. It seems he shot himself to put an end to the nightmare lived by the explorers in the camp. Yeah, it's just another pile, another item to add to the pile of evidence that we should go home. However, you find something useful in your search. On one of the tables are the team's flight plans, including the safe routes to cross the mountains toward the outpost. All right, back to the main map is the only choice. Should we take their flight plans? If you think you've already resolved the mystery, I mean, that everybody got freaking killed by the creatures, sure. I guess I'll check the odd metal structure that catches my attention. I'm not sure what they're actually referring to here. Looking at this, what is the odd metal structure? This giant pencil? Did they mention it earlier and I forgot about it? Oh, X, the odd structure. Duh. Okay. Sure, the odd structure. Let's check it out. Why do I feel like it was at 106 already? Oh. No, I guess not. The metallic structure soon catches the eye of your team. The team, is it just me and the pilot guy? McTiger or something like that? So literally everyone else dead? I'm not sure. Metallic structure soon catches the eye of your team. It's a building made of various prefabricated tents, which have been joined together and reinforced by ice. As you get closer, you see how a wall of ice blocks that had once been raised is now blood-stained and in ruins. Stepping in, you realize this is the place where Lake and his team performed the autopsies of the creatures. Now the place is wrecked, as if a terrible fight had taken place. All right, he was cutting them up, and they either came alive or there was parasites inside them or something like an alien. And then it was not good. Whatever it was, these bodies, cutting open these bodies did not go well. Now the place is wrecked as if a terrible fight had taken place. The remains of 2 of the rescued specimens are decomposing and stinging of rotten eggs, twisting your stomachs. In the center of the room, there's still a stretcher where a tarpaulin is covering something. I don't know. You ready to die, folks? We're going to die right now. We're going to examine what is lying under the tarp on 11. Well, we have Padobi, that's right. We have McTighe and Padobi. I had a math teacher in high school named Mrs. Tighe. It was spelled just like that. But everybody else, like parents and stuff, always assumed it was pronounced Teague. So I'm wondering, is this McTeague? But then my mind is going to, well, I'm going to take Mrs. Tighe's word for it and pronounce it like that. All right. Mrs. Tighe was a very mean math teacher, but she made you do well somehow. And as soon as I graduated, I heard she passed away. And one of my friends was like celebrating it. I was like, dude, come on. I know she wasn't the nicest teacher, but come on. Anyway, that was the story of Mrs. Tighe. Not really much of a story. But, all right, so you walk, yeah, accompanied by those people, you walk to the autopsy table with a racing heart. You undo the tarpaulin and see something that fills you with horror. Before you, there's a carefully dissected body of a man lacking a head. Oh, we saw his head. It was in the latrine hole. His organs have been carefully, but not professionally removed. It seems the procedure was performed by a butcher rather than a doctor. So one of these creatures chopped him out. So my glasses are all foggy. They get all smudgy, and now I can't wipe them properly. Let me get a proper wipe. Sorry. Kind of need my glasses more and more lately these days. It's age, man. Middle age. But they have this anybody who gotten glasses with like that, I think it's the anti-glare coating. It's so prone to smudging. It's so annoying. I'm thinking of next time I get glasses, just not getting the anti-glare coating. And obviously you shouldn't touch the lenses, but somehow you know, I just always manage to do so or get something on it. Get some schmutz on it. All right. Still not perfect. This is what people come to my YouTube channel to see. Mark cleans his glasses lenses. Okay, that seems better. All right. So, by his feet is the headless carcass of one of the dogs, to which someone has sewn Fowler's head. I don't remember any of this from the book. I guess it's kind of good that it deviates from it somewhat. Like, what's the point of, you know, if it's the same exact stuff, you know, same exact events that happen, you wouldn't want to, it's like, what would be the point of playing it if it was exactly the same? It has to have some kind of variation. But here's the thing: in the original story, as I remember it, I mean, I'm not a master of this story, and I've basically only read it twice. Once I read the original text like 20 years or so ago, and maybe like 5 years ago, I got that manga I was talking about, and I read that. Now, I thought the way it went down was the expedition found one old expedition from a long time ago, and there was evidence of, destroyed, camping equipment and whatnot. But this is a little different. This is like our expedition that we came here with, but we split up. We're finding the remains of them. And I don't remember stuff like, the whatever it just said, the human head sewn onto a dog's body and stuff. It was nothing quite like that. It was like more, I don't know, I guess a little more subtle. They were just like, destroyed equipment and bodies. Maybe there were bones by then, even I don't remember. I guess they would probably be very preserved due to the cold, actually, so maybe not bones. Anyway, the point is it was very different in that I can remember from the original story. Okay, so yeah, you wretch. I would probably do that, yeah. Covering the horrifying sight, you examine the rest of the tent, searching for any hint of what could have happened. Now, I was just reminded how many Cthulhu-themed games, especially the main role-playing game called Cthulhu, they would give you a character attribute called sanity. And anytime you encountered something like this, it would pretty much guaranteed say something like, -1 sanity right here. And if your sanity goes to 0, you're just too mad to continue, or something along those lines. But in this game, it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't actually keep track of such a thing. But yeah, it's more, like I said earlier, it's more of a choose your own adventure style book than a pseudo RPG. And that's fine. You don't need to make everything a pseudo RPG. All right. What catches your attention the most? Sorry, where are we going? Covering the site, you examine the rest of the tent, searching for any hint of what could have happened. What catches your attention the most is that the tent heater is smashed, as if someone had attacked the machine with a hammer or a rock. In addition, there are a large number of burned matches around a gigantic block of half-melted ice. You can return to the main map, alert McMurdo, and send a signal disaster to alert the world. Should we just do that? At this point, if I go back to 22, the only option left is if I've solved the mystery or something. Like, what? I'm not really sure how I'm supposed to answer that, but I guess I'll try that. Like, it almost hints to me like it's one of those puzzles that these books have sometimes where it's like, you know, the answer is a word and you can add up the numbers representing each character in the word and then go to that paragraph. I'm guessing it's not going to be like that. But let's see. If you think you've already solved the mystery, go to page 30. Oh, yeah, freaking elder things or whatever killed people. Hey, what else is there to say? I don't know. Elder things and or other creatures. Or maybe it was those great race of Yith guys or whatever. After some reconsideration of the proofs obtained during your investigation, there is no doubt that you are royally effed. No, there's no doubt that something terrifying and probably otherworldly occurred during the storm. Let's put your deducing skills to the test. Oh, God. Okay. It's going to, like, make sure it's going to test if I remembered all the details and shit. Check the list of all researchers in the image on page... Okay, I'm going to have to revisit paragraphs, but let's see. Check the list of all researchers in the image on page 22. The number preceding each name represents their age. One of these researchers is not in camp. They could be Oh, come on, I know the person didn't do this. All right, fine. One of these researchers is not in camp. They could be the perpetrators of this massacre, or they might have an explanation as to what happened. Head to the section that corresponds with their age to continue with your investigation. Don't rush it. In Antarctica, there's plenty of time to think. Yeah, not if there's a crazy alien creature trying to kill you. I keep saying alien, but it could be that they're actually, in a sense, they're actually really Earthlings, right? They're just kind of ancient, bizarre creatures. All right, so we're going to go to 22. Basically, try to remember which name wasn't mentioned as someone who died. Now, I know the first one, Lake, died. Yeah, this is going to be hard. I mean, I wasn't really paying super close attention. I guess I'm going to lightly, I don't want to, like, you know, deface my book too much, but I'm going to lightly check if the ones I know are not it. So it's not Lake, and I remember the name Carol. I think we had said Moulton. Yeah, they mentioned Boudreaux. Actually, I don't remember if that was a dead guy or not, though, or somebody at Atwood was dead for sure. Watkins, I think, was dead, and Orendorff. Yeah, Orendorff. Stu corroborates Orendorff. We said it like the same time. All right. Gedney. Yeah, you're right. Brennan was the guy they said they think. That's a good point. They think it was him, but they weren't sure. I mean, I feel like we have to. I don't know. I mean, I shouldn't stress it too much. I basically make a guess, and if the paragraph makes no sense, I pick another one. I think Boudreaux was... Should I go back? All right, I'll go back. I can rewind my video. Let's do it. I think Boudreaux was dead, though. All right, I'm going to rewind. Everybody who's dead. Where are you, dead people? Can't rewind too much. Okay, Fowler. Fowler's head was the one who was sewn onto the dog. So Fowler's got to be crossed off. You know, it would help if they spelled it consistently. It says flower here, but it says Fowler elsewhere in the text. Come on, people. I swear, everybody just give me copies of the drafts of your game book. I will find so many errors because I'm anal. You know, I actually think you would think having a good proofreader is good at this kind of stuff, and it probably is. But I think as a software engineer who reviews a lot of people's code, I'm good at being anal and picking out these these nitpicky details. Because if there's a problem like that in some code, the program's not going to work. So I'm good at being nitpicky about these kind of things. Anyway, flower is Fowler, I assume. Let me just make sure there's not a Fowler and a flower. Yeah, there's not. All right. So I'm gonna check some more. Let's see. All right, Boudreaux. Yeah, he's dead. We found lifeless body of the pilot Boudreaux. Philippe Boudreaux. Oh, he's the one who shot himself. Okay. Rewinding a little more. Watkins and Carroll were naked and frozen under the ice. So Carroll, we already crossed off. Watkins, did we cross? Yeah, we already. I think we crossed him off. Can't tell if that's my marking or not. Yeah, we crossed off Watkins for sure now. Rewinding. I think at this point I can just guess it. If it makes no sense, then we go back. Well, I'll just look for another minute, maybe. Rewinding. Who else died? You know, this is not exactly a fun puzzle, I gotta say. I guess it's like a test where you're paying attention to all these names. Crushed corpse of Atwood. I think I crossed off Atwood, right? Yeah, Donald Atwood. Did we say Theodore Daniels? I feel like it's easier to remember the more distinct names, like, I don't know, Orendorff or Boudreaux, as opposed to something that seems kind of generic, at least generic to an American, like Daniels. Okay, Moulton, Mills, and Orendorff. And I think Brennan. So Moulton. You already crossed off Moulton. Mills. We did not cross off Mills, so now we did. All right, so it looks like. What is this word even? Gedney? Hedney? Gedney is unchecked. Daniels is unchecked. Brendan is unchecked, but they think he was crushed. I think I should assume that was him. I'm gonna cross off Brendan. So I'm just gonna guess one of them. So I don't have to go back and rewind for another 10 minutes or something. All right, so we're gonna guess. Let's guess. I'm gonna go with Daniels, 33. If the paragraph makes no sense, we go back. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. It says something about trying to save somebody with a rope, so that's not it. All right, so it was not Daniels. Let's try Gedney then at 50. Here we go. Gedney. That's cool that we legit narrowed it down to 2 people at least. And we just guessed wrong at that point. I thought we saw Gedney was dead since Stu, I guess not. Yeah, it was hard. You know, they mentioned the name, I know, but it's kind of hard to keep track of all these names. Let's not bicker and argue over who killed who. Clearly, you have not yet located or recovered Gedney's corpse. The poor man must still be keeping guard in the camp. Their concern is that out of the 6 complete specimens recovered from the ice, only 5 of them occupy the strange star-shaped tomb. You swallow and make the harsh decision of your life to resume the search for the missing Gedney and bring him or his corpse back to civilization if at all possible. Yeah. It's less than a day-long trip to McMurdo Bay. So he's at that other McMurdo area. Okay. And you have barely made it to the frontier of the frozen continent, yet you find yourself wholly isolated and disoriented. I'm kind of losing track of like the camps and who's at where, who's at which one and stuff. I'm a little confused. What did they say? He was guarding the camp, but at McMurdo, I guess. Okay. Anyway, you don't want to jeopardize the rest of the expedition, so it'd be more prudent if you depart on your own in search of answers. Obviously, you can't fly the plane yourself, so you'll need Danforth's continued aid. Who's Danforth? I remember the name Danforth coming up a lot in the original story, but I think is this the first time they're mentioning him? I feel like it is. He must be the pilot, or one of the pilots. There was two planes, right? So, yeah, a mere 16 hours after landing on the base, you both board the exploration biplane and head for the mountain range. As you near the black and sinister summits, you observe with puzzlement the strange formations that creep up the sides. They are a tangle of cubes, ramparts, and cave mouths. You take a number of photographs. Somehow they remind you of ancestral walls in cities like Machu Picchu, something utterly impossible. If it were true, we'd be staring at a construction that could only have been made by Titans. Oh, I guess we're finding Titans then. 95. All right. I think we're finally getting the ball rolling in this story. But what do we do after we find monsters? We just run away scared, I think. Yeah, I know. Just go home. It does seem like the right thing to do. You know, when you find the monsters in these Lovecraftian stories, you don't usually fight them. It's not like D&D or something. It's usually you run away, run for your life, you know, or they eat you instantly or dismember you instantly, or they make you insane. If you do manage to survive, you're writing your last, notes to inform the world about what you encountered before offing yourself or something like that, because it drove you that insane. Anyway, our character isn't aware of these stories, so he does stupid things. You land without much difficulty. 7.5 miles high in a quiet valley surrounded by mountains on three sides. Standing this close to the walls highlights the impossible shapes of these rocks. It's almost as if they'd been sculpted artificially, forming tangles of superimposed cubes reminiscent of the paintings of the disturbed Rorich. Should we look up? Is this an artist we should know? Let's look it up real quick. Oh, yeah. Rerik. He was a Russian painter. You can look him up if you want to check really quick. You can look up Nicholas Rorich, like Roerich. Also, that's not his original. It's not his original Russian name, apparently. He does a lot of, it looks like stuff like divine stuff, like Mary and Earth goddesses and things like that. Anyway. Okay. Sue says I'll pass. Okay. It is very strange. Observing these structures with your binoculars, you have the impression that they are not even made of the same material as the rock. You smell what the rock is cooking, though. Danforth thinks that through the valley you could cross the mountain barrier that seems to reach from east to west as far as the eye can see, and try to find the missing Gedney from up there. I'm kind of a little lost about why we think he's like in these mountains or something. Like, is that the only place to go or something? Well, they're smarter than I am. I mean, they're both dumber than me and smarter than me. They're dumber that they're persisting, but they're smarter in that they seem to know where they might be able to find him. But it might be safer to continue on foot until you reach base camp and trust that someone will be there. I don't know. Okay. So I guess we do think he's at the camp, but somehow we were flying near mountains we didn't see before. I guess that's what I don't get. Like, why is this a new thing we're seeing? I mean, whatever. We gotta climb to the outpost. I don't know. Arbitrary choice or arbitrary choice, basically. Let's continue the aircraft. Come on, we don't wanna be out in the cold more than we should. Although I feel like this is the wrong answer. 73. Let me check something. I'm gonna cheat. Look ahead to see if I need to go back or not. Okay, I don't need to go back necessarily. Heating reason. Heating reason, you decide to return to camp in search of a means to explore whatever there is beyond the mountains. Avoiding putting the rest of the team at risk, you and Danforth will fly the smallest of the planes, crossing the mountains in search of the outpost. The next morning, the light aircraft crosses the last stretch of the thick fog shaken by the wind. But owing to Lake's flight plans, nothing worse than intense dizziness occurs. What you see through the windows escapes all reason. Danforth is so surprised that he almost loses control of the craft. You rush to take as many pictures as possible as the pilot circles the plateau below you, trying to avoid getting too close to the lost world that unfolds before your eyes. Go to 86. Now I feel like I should go exploring the Antarctic. Maybe we'll find this stuff, right? I wonder how much of it we've really mapped out in the real world. You are flying over hundreds and hundreds of square miles of buildings half buried in a niche of ice. The fuel of the 4 craft combined wouldn't be enough to cover the entirety of this prehistoric city. Terrifying images of legendary megalopolises like Atlantis or Comorian come to mind. But what you explore is older and more sinister, something linked to pre-human civilizations like Valusia or Relier. There are many interesting points. A number of 5-pointed starfish arrangement squares. They love that. The elder guys like the elder things or something. Starfish arrangement squares. A conic construction that could rival the Tower of Babel, and many barrel-shaped buildings that are now completely time-worn. After a long while, you cross a deep crack that divides the city into 2 different parts. Beyond the crack, the buildings become more primitive, in ruins that have been dispersed over time. Eventually, you find a spot for landing, a platform of ice that appears to have been made precisely for that purpose. 69 next. I feel like I probably visited about half the paragraphs at this point. There's only like, what, 100 and something? 120 or so? Danforth is an excellent pilot, and he lands smoothly on the narrow icy walkway where you choose to start the exploration. Now you must carefully choose what equipment you'll carry. Oh. Along with the electric torches and fur suits, you can take up to 2 objects each. Oh, right. It's an actual, yeah, I have to write it on a piece of paper. All right, I got to get a sheet out. I guess I'll just type it in. I don't have paper handy because I didn't think I would need it. So I'll just type it in my random text editor here. But studying the contents of the cargo area, you see things that might be useful. Might be quite useful. Notebook and pencils. So 2 each, right? So we have 4 hands, basically, I guess, is the idea. Notebook and pencils. Cameras with flash. Provisions for 2 days. Hammers and chisels to secure specimens. 65 feet of rope. Compass and map of the Antarctica. I wouldn't want to get lost, that's for sure. Mirrors and flare guns. 35 ounces of confetti in a bag. Now that seems so useless that I feel like there must be a good unexpected use for it. Why would you need about 2 pounds of confetti in a bag? Portable camping tent, tent heater, and matches. Okay. 4 of these I can take, right? Mirrors and flare gun says too. Yeah. That sounds good to me. Mirrors and flare guns. It's true that I should. It would be kind of ridiculous not to have food. All right, I'll take the food. Provisions for 2 days. All right. I feel like probably the compass and map. We don't want to get lost. That leaves one more option. Maybe we should go something a little yeah, the tent. Oh, the tent is a good. A tent heater and matches though. Hmm. I did accidentally read a paragraph where they were using a rope, so that's a good point about the rope. All right, let's go with the rope. Notebook and pencils. Notebook and pencils is useful for playing a game book, but not for survival quite so much. Cameras with flash. Depends on my goal here. I mean, that would be good to document the crazy things I discover, but does that matter? Like, am I going to get points at the end if I document all the crazy things I find? Screw documenting. Yeah, I mean, survival is what it should be primarily about, I guess. Stu said I'm thinking to scare off a vampire. Okay. All right, I'm gonna go with something that Stu didn't mention because I just want to make my own decision about something too. That's gonna be the hammer and chisel. So I'm actually foregoing a tent, which may very well kill me. Actually, that's gonna be if I'm carrying enough food that I'm expecting to possibly be out there for 2 days. I probably really would need a tent, wouldn't I? But then I started to think I would also need the tent heater because I just would freaking freeze otherwise. Probably. I don't know. I'm gonna pick something. I'm gonna pick the chisel anyway. I think it's basically I'm gonna be screwed one way or another probably. So let's do it. Hammers and chisels. All right. So all in all, we have mirrors and flare guns, provisions for 2 days, rope, and hammers and chisels. If we're screwed, we'll come back. Sorry, I'm manipulating my windows stupidly here, trying to find my YouTube chat that I somehow lost. There it is. All right. So we got what we got. Noting paragraph 69 in case I need to cheat and go back here. In case I need to cheat and pick new stuff. I don't think there's any vampires in this story, unless they really changed it. 66. All right. 66. You walk with some difficulty on the floor of the glacier that has swallowed the city, shaken by the wind that carries snowflakes that were once rain. Many buildings rise at different distances. Most have been buried in snow, with just their tops rising above it, which makes it impossible to get inside. However, there are two possible destinations that could lead to the inside of the blurry city that is drawn below your feet. The first is a stone cold about 150 feet tall, and the other is the riverbed, which looks like a large cut that divides the city in two and through, which one could make it inside. Like go inside this cut, like in the okay riverbed. You are not completely sure, but you think you saw something twinkle inside. Maybe it was a reflection of the snow, or maybe something metallic that's been abandoned. The cone is relatively near, while the canal will take a few hours to reach, crossing the plateau. All right, so we can explore the building at 14. If you believe crossing the frozen plateau might be safer in order to not lose reference of the sky, have a go on 70. Okay, so it's not. The text kind of mentioned I could. It kind of made it enticing to search this riverbed thing or something. But I guess you can't do that. So let's explore the building. How about? As you get near, you see that what you mistook for a tower is actually a sort of defense bastion in the shape of a five-pointed star. I think the five-pointed star, whose edges are blunt owing to erosion. It is made of a sort of black granite that extends both to the sky and to the center of the earth. On each side of the stars, there are a number of open windows. They are big enough to sneak through, and so you do. And you get to a room paved with black slate that leads to several spiral ramps descending to the interior of the ice. I think we better go down, says Danforth in resignation, as he turns on his electric torch. After all, that's what we're here for. All right. The descent is dangerous and fascinating. The stone walls seem to be divided by a marble belt of a lighter color in which a number of symbols have been carved. Dots, triangles, and stars that could, without a doubt, form a sort of writing system. Down the end of the ramp, there's a great five-sided room. Explore the room on 103. The floor is paved with slate, but the tiles are now much bigger than you've seen so far. You arrive at a five-sided gallery that has 4 exit doors. The one to the west undoubtedly leads to the ramps that take you out of the city, while the northern and southern ones run parallel to the mountain barrier. The most promising is the one to the east, which seems to dip into the insides of the city. There don't seem to be any pictograms in this room. And the most interesting thing is that it seems to have been vacated in a rush, for there are markings on the floor, as if things had been dragged. These, however, are of no help because they point everywhere. What will you do? Got a lot of options here. You can head southward, following the mountain range on 90. Northward, parallel to the mountainside on 40. Perhaps you want to head west and leave the city, terminating your investigation until you are more prepared on 16. Or you can walk along the eastern corridor to the deepest areas of the nameless city on 79. Yeah, let's do that. We're going to go deep into the city and surely not get killed. I don't know how it'd be more prepared ever. If I go to 60, like what would I be waiting for? I don't know. You are traversing a corridor that seems to stretch out endlessly to the interior of the city. Soon you realize it's actually a sort of underground avenue that hangs over a pit of inexpressible depth. The walls to either side of this corridor are less than 3 feet tall, and it's been torn down on some parts. Northwards, you can see thousands of buildings in all imaginable shapes. Some seem abandoned since prehistoric times, others look much younger, although still of careless design. Southwards, the path ends in a tower, a stone cone of inscrutable proportions. The glyphs on the walls are soon replaced by simpler pictograms. Actually, you are contemplating the history of the race that inhabited these cities. It deals with the barrel-shaped creatures known as the Old Ones and their servants, the Shoggoths. And how this race was losing power as the world ruled by the great Old Ones was changing. The race decided to split up. Some migrated to the depths of the sea, as others remained to defend their ever-decaying empire on the surface. The worst happened when their servants, genetically engineered creatures, freed themselves from their masters invading the cities. The story finishes when the suspension bridge under the ice meets the conic tower. You can explore the tower on 9 or return to the 5-sided room, retracing your steps on 103. Let's check the tower 9. You are apparently walking through an isolated suburb in the middle of the city. The buildings are in a terrible state, worse than any you've seen so far. Yep, we're on Long Island again. Suburb, terrible. No, I'm just Just being silly. You walk through streets and buildings, trying to find the best path. Over your head, you see the thick glacier layer. Over the center of the gigantic tower that contains the citadel, a smaller path leads to the outside through the layer of ice. You have to turn around and around to make it to that structure. The life of the batteries of your electric torches is starting to die down. Oh, geez. Luckily, enough light is filtering through the ice. The structure is actually a spiral that sinks down into the ground to the dry bed of an underground river. It then returns to the surface. From the bottom of the hole comes a horrific sound. Oh boy. A high-pitched and repetitive whine that makes your hair stand on end. The awful discord is inexplicably combined with a strong fishy odor. What will you do? Well, I mean, it sounds like we're not going to be able to see if we go deep because our torches are dying. But it said that the spiral that's... Sorry, I'm not pointing at the right place. Come on, focus. Okay. Anyway, what I was trying to say is the structure sinks down to the dry bed of an underground river and then returns to the surface. So I guess it does lead back up to where we'd have light, but if I'm stuck down there and the flashlights die, that's probably bad. Why don't we not go to... So is that the hole? Is that the same thing we're talking about here? Yeah, let's go to the surface. We don't want to like run out of... We don't want this thing that's whining to kill us. We don't want to run out of flashlight power either. Oh, I think I just died. Both you and Danforth are terrified by the implications of the existence of a city like this one, doubtlessly of no human origin. Carrying samples as proof of what you went through, you crawl out through one of the ramps. The first to come to the top is Danforth, and you wait for him to help you leave the hole. His help never comes. Disgusted, you manage to reach the edge and find yourself face to face with someone familiar who looks at you wide-eyed. Tekeli Lee, screamed the discordant Gedney. Beside him and upside down, there's Danforth, hanging from a sort of black and greasy tentacle. That tentacle belongs to one of the creatures Lake found, a monster shaped like a hogshead and with a starfish-shaped head. Yelling in panic, you fall back down to the interior of the city, and your electric torch is smashed to pieces. You'll spend the next days running around in absolute darkness. You may survive deadly false predators that creep through the corridors, hunger and cold, but sooner or later, one of the old ones or their servants, the horrendous Shoggoths, will find you, and you'll also chant their demented litany, Tekeli Lee. The end? What was it? Isn't that like the end of Flash Gordon? It does that. The end? All right, well, we got killed. So, do we go back? Should I just call it a night at this point? I want to go on a little bit more. So let's backtrack. We could go to my last choice, I guess. I don't think that's going to resolve very well either, though. Well, let's try it. So I'm going to check what that number was by rewinding. We were at... What were we at before 16, basically? Here we go. Yeah, I don't see that hole in the ground being a good way to go. I'll just get killed faster by the Shoggoths. Alright. So 49 is the other choice. We're going down. So far, we're still alive. Stu says he screams Tekeli Lee all the time. Going down to the riverbed seems madness, but you've explored too much to leave now, when you are closer than ever to the guts of the city. The spiral leads to a clear beach of any waste. One of the sledges missing from the lake's camp is lying by the shore, and on top of it are the mangled remains of poor Gedney and one of the dogs. Is he going to say it to Kelly Lee? Should I just burn him now? From the distance, you hear the confusing cacophony of 1,000 penguins. It turns out the river basin is packed with monstrous albino penguins, albino birds. Some of them are almost 5 feet tall. Oh, when they say monsters, I was imagining like 20 feet tall or something, like Godzilla penguins or something. Anyway, these stinking creatures reek of rotten eggs, and their legs seem deformed as if they were tentacles instead. The penguins descend to darkness through a net of corridors that open on one of the embankments of the river basin. So here's our penguins. Stinking mutant penguins gather in a subterranean beach. They look like bigger than 5 feet to me. Maybe not this one. This one looks like he's hunched over and he's like 10 feet tall. I said always poor Gedney. Yeah, I don't know about him. We should he's gonna say to Kelly Lee in a minute because he's gotten Shoggoth. 68. You turn on your electric torches again, and surrounded by the flock of albino birds, start your descent through the corridors that are wider and better looked after. The temperature rises and the rubble disappears, and gives way to a perfectly preserved slate paving in black. You cross rooms decorated with images of the queer creatures discovered by Lake. Their barrel-shaped bodies with spread-out membranous wings are easily identifiable. These pictograms tell the history of the splitting of the bloodline into 2 branches. The marine, much bigger, and the terrestrial, which little by little started to deteriorate along with the city until it was forgotten by its kin and its servants, the fearful Shoggoths. The torches are failing you, so you decide to turn them off while you look for a way to exit these tunnels. Oh man, I didn't take the compass. If you have with you any means to orient yourself or mark the ground, like that's what the confetti's for. Or even a notebook. All the things I didn't take. Compass, confetti, notebook. What did I take? Let me just look at my notes. I took a mirror and flare guns. Can I like trace a path in the ground with the mirrors or something? Rope. I could leave a trail of rope. Oh, Stu's saying to Kelly Lee again. Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to say I don't have a means of orientation and die at 67. Yep, I'm dead. Ah. No, I didn't take. I was thinking about compass, but I opted not to. Ultimately, I got mirrors and flare guns, provisions for 2 days, rope and hammer and chisels. Just as you thought, you were going in circles in a directionless labyrinth. You are no longer able to identify which door leads where. You go down ramps, find cul-de-sacs and rooms wrecked by ice or fire. At a certain point, you are assured that a real war broke out in these corridors. When the batteries of the electric torches run out, you know you are doomed. You can only wait death by hunger, cold, or who knows if something worse could happen. If you have food rations or flare guns, maybe you could make a desperate attempt to summon help. Otherwise, I'm afraid this is the end. Oh, I do have flare guns and food rations. Yeah, okay, all right. You can try to await your rescue on 77. Oh, it doesn't sound promising, trying to get somebody else to rescue me. Rescue me. But hey, it's an option. Let's do it. Ah, come on. Why did they just do this? They're like, all they're doing is giving me an extra paragraph to say I'm dead. It's like, you think you're dead, and then you're like, oh, wait, I have one of the objects that saves me, at least for now. It just takes you to another you're dead paragraph. All right, let's read it. It seems something went terribly wrong. You wake up disoriented with a very dry mouth. I went to sleep. What's happening here? Okay, apparently I was rescued and I'm insane now. That's the idea. All right. You wake up disoriented with a very dry mouth due to the medicines. The first days you can't say a word. You resort to banging your head against the padded walls of the cell you've been locked up in. Hardest of all is the inability to warn someone about the horrors that stalk us out there. For you've been gagged with a leather piece. And with the tight straitjacket, it doesn't seem as though you'll be able to remove it. What you saw outside has deprived you of your sanity, and you're going to spend a long, long time locked in this asylum. That's right, at some point you have gone completely insane. Of course, you're not willing to admit it, for you know full well what happened, and regardless of all the drugs and electric shocks you receive, you'll defend your truth. As a wise man once said, the prosaic materialism of the majority condemns as madness the flashes of supersight which penetrate the common veil of obvious empiricism. Okay. Sure. The end. And here's how we spend the rest of our days, or at least a lot of our days. I'm not crazy, chant 100 voices along the corridors of Arkham. They all think we're not crazy. Just another crazy person insisting he's not crazy. And that's the end of me. All right, the question is, do I call it here or rewind a little more? I'll rewind a little bit more. But I am getting tired. And I'd be more incentivized if sometimes I'm doing a stream and I'm like winding down and suddenly the number of viewers just really ramps up and I'm like, oh, well, I feel like I got to play a little more. But it's mainly just been Stu and an unknown person the whole time. Not to diminish you, Stu. I appreciate your chatting with me. I probably would have, if it wasn't for you hanging out with me, Stu, I probably would have quit an hour ago. I'd be like, all right, it's just just me talking to myself. Okay, so Stu says he's gonna leave. That's fine. That you can do that. That's totally cool. He's gonna start his own stream. But yeah, I'm just gonna do this a little bit longer, maybe like I don't know, 10 or 15 more minutes, maybe. We'll see how it goes. So why don't we backtrack? I took in my notes. I could go back to 69 if I feel like I need to take different provisions. So let's do that. So we're rewinding to this part. We can always take a different path in the city too. Oh, hey, Be Anonymous, how's it going? BP is in the house. How you been, dude? Be Anonymous is a former coworker of mine, and he shows up in this chat once in a while. All right, so let's get on with it. What are we going to take here? So we'll take something to orient ourselves. Let's get rid of the mirrors and flare guns, I guess. No, screw it. I'm gonna get rid of the hammers and chisels. I don't think I'm gonna. It's basically the point of that is to secure specimens. I don't think I'm securing any specimens. I just gotta try to survive here, right? So I will take, instead of that, I'll take the compass and map. Maybe I'll return to that same path because I know I need something to orient myself, as it mentioned. All good here, dude. Yeah, I'm playing a game book set in the Call of Cthulhu universe basically tonight. And I don't know if you were watching for a while or not, but yeah, it's very dangerous in this world. You get killed, you go crazy. Just never works out for the common working man in this universe. All right, so I'm trading my, what do I say? Something for the. I'm trading my hammer and chisel for the compass, and I guess I'll take the same path because it said I could use a compass basically. So I'm going to try to find that place again. Explore the building. Bear with me a minute. 103. Boom, 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 boom. Last time I picked go eastern and deeper into the city. I'm questioning the wisdom of that, but I said I was going to do what I did last time, but now armed with a compass, basically. or the tower. Yeah, these were put out by Steve Jackson Games. Maybe you've heard of them. There's a whole set of them, like a whole series of them, based on H.P. Lovecraft stories. So this one is At the Mountains of Madness. They were actually written by some Spanish authors, and they had a good, they kind of achieved sort of a good reputation. So Steve Jackson Games hired I guess a translator, and then they republished them themselves. So yeah, I'm having fun with this. It's kind of like choose your own adventure basically, and it doesn't really have RPG elements in the sense of like character attributes and stuff like that. And there's no dice rolling. It's more like a basic choose your own adventure where you just choose paragraphs pretty much. Anyway, let's see, where are we at? Strong fishy odor. They could use some deodorant probably. Yeah, that's right. Lovecraftian horror is something special. Somehow my camera's on manual focus. I don't want it to do that. Screw it. All right, where are we going? All right, walk down to the depths of the city is what we're doing. 40, 49. We find the penguins. The albino penguins, the giant albino penguins. Thing is, I wonder if they would kill me if I wasn't hiding from them. Surely penguins aren't vicious, right? All right, 68. All right, so now we're at this junction where I was killed because I didn't have any means to orient myself. But I went back and cheated, and now I have a compass. So let's go to 10. It's gonna say you're dead anyway. No. I've heard there's some Lovecraftian like video games. I never really played any of them though. Stu here was just talking about I can't remember the name of it. Something with ice in the name from the 90s. There's a fun movie based on Call of Cthulhu that was made by the what are they called? The Love something like the H.P. Lovecraft Historical Society. They made a pseudo 1920s movie kind of. They tried to make it like a 1920s era silent movie, and it's the story of Call of Cthulhu. It's pretty good. It kind of doesn't look like it looks like you can tell it's a modern movie that tries to look like it's from the 20s, but it's still pretty good. And it's only like 45 minutes long or something. Anyway, the jarring sound you were hearing is now much louder, so much so that it seems to ascend through the corridor you are walking along. Danforth looks at you with fear, and although you can only see his eyes, you are sure he is trying to tell you something. Cautiously, you turn on your electric torch, whose batteries are almost dead, and light the floor in front of you. Corpses! Dozens of corpses of the strange creatures lake called the Old Ones lie slaughtered everywhere. It's as if their flexible bodies had been smashed and torn apart in a rage by an unknown force. Maybe penguins fed off the preserved bodies of those who once ruled them. Danforth's observation makes you realize your mistake. What's my mistake? Resume your exploration on page 87. I wonder if there's any way to actually get through this with, specimens gathered and you leave and you fly back home safe. That might be the ideal outcome, perhaps, if they let you do that even. Turning off the torch. Your friend's voice is the only thing keeping you sane, despite the harshness of his words. These headless corpses are too recent, too well prepared to have been nourishment. No, these are the specimens Lake rescued from the ice, and their relatives, too, awoken from their eons-long lethargy in the coldness of an unknown era, attacked by four-footed beasts, mangled by white-skinned beings covered in odd clothes and apparatuses. The Old Ones, scientists from another time, did as anyone would have. They defended themselves. After finding their captors, they crossed the frozen plateaus with samples of their newest findings and read the inscriptions just like we did. They tried to reunite with their fellow men, their siblings hidden in the deepest end. Danforth ends his terrifying tale, gasping. A monstrous and oppressive presence seems to materialize out of nowhere. Turn to 47 to see what happens. Benonymous says this is reminding me of Cultist Simulator, which I had cheaply acquired on Steam. Oh, I haven't heard of that. I guess it's in this kind of setting. And you're a cultist. 47. I'm still alive. For now. Disobeying your own reason. I do that a lot sometimes. Disobeying your own reason. You turn around with your electric torches aimed at the thick fog that seems to advance through the corridor as if alive. Again, you hear the striking musical sound, but this time it is as clear as the lyrics to an ancestral prayer. Tekeli Lee, Tekeli Lee. Stu says he says that all the time in bed, apparently. The light from your torches overcomes the darkness for a split second, and little by little the fog starts to dissipate. With a terror-induced shiver, you drop your torches and break into a hasty run toward the tunnel that leads to the surface of the dead city. Okay, so we're dropping our torches and getting the heck out of there. Completely deranged, you run towards 111. Oh no. I mean, I'm getting locked up again, doesn't it? Not yet. I think I'm just dead now. Okay. Here's our new friends that we just met. That we're going to meet in this paragraph. You run along the dark alleyways of the city under the ice, chased by a shapeless horror. Oh boy. You run in darkness across demolished alleyways, across the polished floors of the nameless city. Neither the cold nor your hunger can stop the force of the terror that pushes you forward. Not knowing how or when, you wake up in the midst of howls in one of the Arkham's dark cabins. Poor Danforth beside you is rocking backwards and forwards while chanting the familiar stations of the Boston-Cambridge tunnel. There is no recognition in his eyes, and when you start remembering, you can only envy him. If you ever manage to recover, you know that you will try with all your might to discourage unwary men from setting out to the frightening mountains of madness. But right now, you can only reenact over and over the last instance of the nightmare you had to live. Looking back, you expected something horrible to be following you, but you could not have foreseen that what was to come from the fog would be so evil and abhorrent. A column of a fetidly plastic black iridescence that gave off a cloud of smoke coming from the abyss, a shapeless mass of bubbles with myriads of eyes, forming and unforming like pustules that advanced towards you, stepping over the manic penguins. The last thing you recall before your frenzied flight was hearing the mocking cry of Tekeli Lee, Tekeli Lee. For the monstrous Shoggoths merely mimicked the voices of their masters. The end? Wow. This is a tough one. That's one of the Shoggoths, I guess. Hello. At least it didn't kill me. I somehow managed to get out of it. I don't know how, but... Alright, well... I think that's it for me tonight. So thanks for stopping by, Brad. I appreciate it. And yeah, if anyone's watching the archived version of the stream, thank you for watching it. But that's all for tonight. And I'm gonna be busy next week, so I probably won't do a midweek stream, but we'll see. And yeah, so thanks again for watching, everyone. See you later, Brad. And yeah, don't walk into this guy in a dark alley. Stay safe, stay cool. Hope everything's going well. Hope this guy doesn't invade your nightmares, etc., etc. All right, have a good night.